Let's face, without panic, the reality of our world. Nuclear weapons are humanity's answer to a problem made by humans. Bombs as strong as towers made of TNT, invented by the Americans, then adopted by the Russians, Chinese and many other countries. If you are living in any considerably populated area on Earth, chances are that there is either a NATO, Russian or China nuclear rocket armed and aimed at you. Let us, for the sake of this video, assume that the rocket is in flight and coming for you. Let me take you on a sad journey of distrust, death, and intentional misunderstandings.
Let me share with you a vision of the future which offers hope. What if free people could live secure in the knowledge that their security did not rest upon the threat of instant U.S. retaliation to deter a Soviet attack, that we could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil or that of our allies?
minutes. 30 minutes is the time it takes for an intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile to reach any point in the world. 30 minutes is a lot of time, but also not really. Once a rocket is fired, it is up to the laws of physics to determine how much time you have left. There is no going back. There is no red telephone that will be able to save you. And a nuclear rocket cannot be magically disarmed mid-flight. For one, this would be an extremely complicated technology you would somehow have to be able to fit into the rocket, but for two, does this leave an opening for foreign powers to potentially hack and neutralize the rockets. Therefore, no mid-flight self-destruct. A flying rocket will follow the programmed path and inevitably land at the designated spot. There is no reliable defensive technology to stop or disrupt it. The Israeli Iron Dome is for artillery fire, not nuclear rockets. It stops missiles the weight of a human, not literal trains. It is just you, the melting concrete beyond you, and a firewall the size of a city. The problem with nuclear weapons is that there is no possible resolution to any conflict. You cannot reason with nuclear weapons, and you cannot invade a nation holding nuclear weapons. As long as the nukes are around, doomsday will happen eventually, be it by accident, by conflict, or someone just losing their marbles. Even if we became the nicest species under the sun, the sheer existence of those warheads alone is enough to spark conflict that will lead to destruction. All conflicts must be possible to be settled through reason or bigger army diplomacy. Since conflicts between humans arise naturally, and relying on the threat of the destruction of everyone is bound to fail if you just give it enough time. The unfortunate truth is that war is not at all going out of fashion. As much as I would like it to think that, every passing hour in which nuclear weapons are not disarmed brings us 1 hour closer to complete, utter, absolute destruction. You may not want to believe it, but legends do indeed die. In the game of DEFCON, everyone dies. When first launched, nobody will know what is going on, except those that launched it. a tiny spot on the night sky, maybe someone seeing it take off from the distance, but they won't be able to recognize it. It is yet silent on the world. It is only a while later, and the missile weighs heavy into its gravity and begins its slow but certain descent, that the radar picks it up. The personnel at the monitoring station may at first be very confused by this unknown, ominous object that seems to have a very confident trajectory, heading directly towards them. But it was already too late by the second this thing was launched. It may be around this time that the object is identified and the alarms are raised. Optimistic estimates give you about 3 minutes from here on out. But what now? Of all the time you had, 5 minutes have already passed and you still don't know what's going on. Is it a trial alarm? Is there an air raid coming? As you look around, you see a whole lot of people either confused or ignoring it outright. An attack of this scale would never happen, and if it happened, then it wouldn't happen to you, right? Perhaps you feel a sense of suspicion, an unnerving feeling of something seems different this time. In the human mind, a threat doesn't exist until it is aware of it. Even if it is physically threatened, the human will not budge until it realizes the dimension of danger it is in. The unreal part of nuclear weapons is that if one's coming for you, all persuasion in the world will not be as effective as seeing it land somewhere. Except in that case, seeing it land won't help you much either. So it may be a cellular network warning, or perhaps a friend calling you. Maybe you happen to be listening to the radio. Now what do? Everything you've ever known is in disarray. The realization that you're now living in a different world, that your fate has been decided about 10 minutes ago, and that you are now dying in a war between two old people, arguing over things you and your friends will never have anything to do with. Maybe hastily putting together a box of useful things for the off chance that you're not killed. You run into the basement of whatever you're building you're currently in, find that there's already a group of people waiting for you. You flinch a few times because something happened that makes you think it's landed, but in reality you have no clue what it will be like to witness a nuclear detonation, until suddenly. From one moment to the next, all your perception of yourself and the world around you stops. You're dead before you even know it, and if you happen not to die instantly, then you'll wish you had, for everything you have known will have ceased to exist. What follows is a massive retaliation, forcing every nation on Earth to take their side and participate if they can, ending civilization and leaving no one to ever feel joy or happiness again. Those that do manage to survive are either ruthless war criminals who will never have to face the blade of justice, capitalistic business magnates who bought their way to survival through exploitation, or innocent civilian victims now looking at the world as uninhabitable as ever. Their understanding of a good and happy life will not be the same as ours, for the rest of their lives and the generations following them. If you live in a moderately populated city, then you, specifically you who's listening to this right now, will not be one of the survivors. Rid yourself of survivorship bias. No one you know will survive, and I too will not survive. The true danger of nuclear weapons doesn't come from their destructive potential. The irony here being that you are more likely than not to be obliterated so quickly you won't even realize it's happening. Really, you don't need to care about the nuke once it is in transit. The way nuclear weapons work is slowly and insidiously. It isn't the payload that matters. It is the clock in the brain of the commander that matters. When his clock rings 12, that is what's so dangerous. If a leader of a superpower decides to use a nuke, then several million, if not billion people already have died. They just don't know it yet. In the human mind, a threat doesn't exist until it is aware of it. Don't let this be your end. The true danger comes from the clock in the people's mind that inevitably ticks towards doomsday, that there's no one to stop them. Hey, this is After the Script Ultra Comfy. I thought I had a few more words that I wanted to say before sending this video off. I'm still deep in the editing, but just as a quick heads up, this is nothing official in that way. I wouldn't use this as actual informational material for people that are uninformed about this subject. I don't think that fear, which is the base emotion that I wanted to evoke with this, is not a very good way to learn about things and to deal with problems and topics in a productive, wise manner. This is very transferable to other problems that we have in the world. I'm looking at climate change. Fear isn't going to help you make any progress, I don't think. It has some artistic value, which is what I'm going for with this. For a game designer, fear is a very interesting emotion to deal with, as it is one of our most innate emotions that a human can feel. But if you truly want to learn something, and if you truly want to make a change in the world, which is the base idea behind this video at all, then fear is not the route you want to take. This, for me, as I said, is more of a piece of art, if anything. I wanted to experiment with this kind of video. I wanted to make people feel something, and I wanted to make it in an informative setting, just like I did here. That may motivate people to do something about it, but probably won't, because again, fear is very problematic when it comes to these kinds of things. But I was always very fascinated by these kinds of videos that show off the destructive potential of nuclear weapons, and I thought, yeah, that is actually a kind of thing I would like to do myself one time. So that's what this is. There's some parts that aren't very well researched. I've been dealing with and informing myself about nuclear weapons for years at this point. One of the main things about this is, in this video I'm talking only about nuclear rockets, while in reality we have at least a nuclear triad and probably some experimental stuff, whatever the people can come up with, that I'm mostly ignoring here. So yeah, it isn't necessarily very well researched, it isn't scientifically accurate, 100% accurate. I believe that most of what I said in this video can be a very good guide to understanding nuclear weapons, but I wouldn't rely on it if it is about technicalities and exact things, like the order in which the alarms are raised and about when the alarms are raised, and that kind of stuff is actually very hard to access information. This is a lot with live and ongoing research, and something that governments don't necessarily like to let other people know. Not necessarily the alarms, but the ways they can defend against incoming nuclear rockets, those kinds of things. The ways everything is connected to let the people know what's going on, everything. It is a very complicated structure that is running under the hood, necessarily because the topic is a very complicated one. If anything, this is more of a of an attempt to draw attention to this issue, because that is really what this is all about. The message is very clear for everyone. Nobody needs to be told just how dangerous nuclear weapons are. If anything, it just needs more attention. That is really everything I wanted to say. Thank you for listening to this, and thank you for thinking about it and opening yourself up for this kind of topic, because this isn't usually the kind of things you'll be listening to at the end of a hard day of work or something. So thank you very much, and have a very, very nice day.